On a quiet hill just over what used to be the DMZ, a military cemetery. Thousands of soldiers, Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army, are buried here, some in unmarked graves. Conservative estimates put the total number of Vietnamese fatalities during the American War at over 1 million people. That loomed large in the mind of Chuck Searcy when he first returned to Vietnam 30 years after the war.
The plane was landing in Saigon, and suddenly I realized for the first time, wait a minute, what am I doing? These people will probably hate us, because of what happened during the war. But within an hour on the streets of Saigon, I found that everyone was just totally warm and welcoming and curious and asking, were you here during the war? Oh, my father was here also. There's absolutely no bitterness and no animosity toward us at all.
Today, Chuck lives in Vietnam, working to clean up unexploded ordnance from the war, a constant and deadly reminder of the conflict. US Senator John McCain spent more than 5 years imprisoned in Vietnam, much of that time here at the Hanoi Hilton. But despite torture that left him permanently disabled, he was a strong advocate for the normalizing of relations with Vietnam and says he's now fond of a country he once detested. In Quang Tri province, hardest hit during the war, a younger generation of Vietnamese are learning about history and patriotism. But for these 16-year-olds, the US is a place of opportunity, not enmity.
In every country in the world, there is the good and the bad, and the US is no exception. Maybe most of the US is good, and maybe there are some things that the US can learn from Vietnam, and some Vietnam can learn from the US.
Some of that is modern pragmatism, but others think it has a deeper root. Former American soldiers often say they're startled by the warm welcome they receive when they return to Vietnam. And many say that Vietnam's Buddhist heritage has allowed people here to forgive their former enemies, but not to forget. Young students arrive for a day trip at the Air Force Museum in Hanoi. Rushing around, they probably don't notice the two men standing on the steps, two of Vietnam's most celebrated air aces. The elder, Major General Lan, was the first pilot to shoot down an American fighter. The other, Colonel Mai, shot down more US planes than any other Vietnamese pilot, but has since kindled friendships with those he met in battle. I asked him if he thought young people today were still interested in the war.
I cannot compare because the young generation don't understand the atmosphere of war like me. And I think the younger generation don't care about history so much because they didn't experience the war.
40 years after the end of the war, the scars are still visible, but for a new generation, the pain seems to have gone. Tony Cheng, CCTV, Hanoi.